This is a continuation of the story sleep-watchers.net. If you haven't yet read that story, or even if it has been a while and you don't quite remember it, I would advise that you read it, as this post won't make much sense without it. Life after high school. What a wonderful phrase. It supposedly means no worries or stress for the rest of your summer days. I, like countless teenagers who have graduated before me, have tried to enjoy this summer of freedom to its fullest. I mean, all the parties after graduation were just the tip-off to a summer that should be shooting me into adulthood. Now though, I'm not sure if I'm going anywhere. I've spent most of the summer working, but with how easy my job was, could you really call it working? I've been sleepwatching. The easiest job on the planet. You've most likely heard of it by now. It's simple. All you do is sit in front of a webcam. You just sit there and do whatever you want while some person on the other end sleeps. At the end of the night, after they rest, you get paid. I started sleepwatching a few weeks ago. It seemed like that as soon as I got the acceptance email, I had a watcher request. The guy that picked me to watch him was a great man. His name was Dominique, an old war vet that would stay up and talk to me when he wasn't able to sleep. He would tell me about what it was like back in the day, fighting for the good old US of A. He only had one problem. He had some really bad PTSD. It would only act up from time to time, but when he did, he would wake up screaming. He only told me once about what had scarred him so deeply. Back in, Nami got ambushed. He had been on a recon mission with his squad, just a fresh-faced private at the time. He told me about the hell he had been through, how enemy soldiers started swarming from the darkness of the jungle. He talked about how his squad tried to hold them back, and he visibly shuddered when he described how they did their best to kill every last one of them. He talked about the hopelessness he had felt while fighting back wave after wave of soldiers. They just wouldn't stop coming, and his guys were picked off like flies. It was like they were coming out of the very ground itself. That's when his friend, the other new blood private of the group, grabbed a grenade and lobbed it into a wave of oncoming men. The grenade did its job and wasted almost a dozen of them, but not before a shot landed right between the eyes of the grenade-throwing recruit. Dominique was distant when he talked about the war. He had had this look in his eyes, like he was watching it play out before him all over again. I felt bad for him. He was alone. His family tried to visit him now and then, but for the most part he was by himself. During the night time, though, he had me, his trusty watcher, to keep him company and to help him sleep. We became really good friends, him and I. We would even call an hour early just to talk. It was like having another grandpa. So I guess at that point, for me anyways, summer was going pretty smoothly. I was getting paid, enjoying freedom, and for the most part not worrying about anything. But the sun has to set, even if we think we're in paradise. Dusk came when I found the post of my best friend Oliver. It was a normal night for Dominique and I. He had fallen asleep hours before and hadn't made a peep since. I was doing my regular thing, searching the web, looking for something interesting to keep me occupied. I was looking through random posts and forum threads, hopeful to find one that could keep me reading. I did. A post titled sleep-watchers.net. I instantly recognized it as Olly's. I mean, he always had that kind of brooding tone, even in his writing. The thing that insured me, though, was the username Wishbone43. He used it for everything. As I got through his post, I just kind of figured it was a story he made up. I knew he had to have been getting bored like I did through all the late nights. At the time, I thought that it was pretty good. It even sent a few shivers down my spine. I mean, staying up every night of the summer. There have been times when I thought that I had seen a few things, but nothing that seemed like it was waiting to creep out of the shadows and kill Dominique. I even laughed to myself when I saw the comments people had left. Some like, cool story, but how much did you get paid? Others took it seriously. Wish I could help, but you know I'd probably fall asleep, and then we would both be screwed. I was thoroughly convinced that his post was Oliver just being bored. He was my best friend, but he always was kind of weird. I mean, I didn't blame him. I'm a strange kid too, but something about his post did seem off. It seemed too real. That's when I started to think about it. I hadn't talked to Olly in a few days. Hadn't heard a single word from him. Back during the school year, we had hung out after school almost every single day, but since graduation I had seen him maybe a total of 4 times. I decided to text him. I mean, his post had to be bogus, but it would be good to check on him and catch up with him. Maybe we could even hang out. Hey bro, you up? While I waited for a response, I read through a few more comments. People were legitimately scared by Oliver's tale. Some said that they looked the website up, and even though they had found it, said that they were terrified to sign up. Olly really convinced those kids that a boogeyman was watching the people of sleep-watchers.net, ready to take down anyone who broke the rules. I, at the time, knew that that wasn't true. Now, though, I'm not so sure. I checked my phone. Still no response from Olly. He could have been asleep. It was around 1 in the morning. I decided to not bother him anymore that night, and instead text him in the morning before I took my daily snooze. My sleep schedule was kind of a mess. I spent the rest of the night reading through other stories that people had posted on the forum that Olly had. There were some interesting things there. The next morning, after Dominique had woken up, told me good morning, and gone on his way for the day, I texted Olly again. Hey bro, text me when you get the chance. Haven't heard from you in a while? Just wondering how you're doing. I waited a few minutes and still didn't get any response. I figured he might have just been sleeping in. Either way, I needed to get to bed or I would be useless to Dominique that night. I slept for a solid 8 hours. When I woke up, I had a message waiting for me on my phone. It was from Olly. Watch me. I wasn't sure what to make of his text at first. It didn't make much sense to my drowsy brain. I started to respond when I remembered his story. Was Olly seriously trying to scare me? I began to text him back. Haha, Olly. You know you may have scared those people online, but I'm a little tougher than that. It didn't take him long to reply. Please. I remember being annoyed. Olly was acting strange. He did that from time to time, and whenever he did, the only way to make him stop was to play along. Fine. I got up and found myself a late breakfast. About an hour later, I finally made my way to the desktop I have in my room. I signed into my profile on Sleepwatchers and had a message waiting for me. It was from Wishbone43, Olly. It was a watcher request. He really wanted to do this. I accepted, and not even a minute later, I received a text from him. Thank you. Yeah, whatever. If you're trying to prank me, though, I will beat you down, Al. He didn't respond. His request stated that I would begin watching him at 9 until 7. I really hoped Oliver would get over whatever this was quickly. It was a few hours later when I called Dominique. He was happy to see me, and I was excited to see him. He may have been old, but he was damn good company. We called early, so we were able to talk for a little while. I told him about Oliver and how I was going to be watching both of them that night. He seemed to understand. I figured he would make some kind of joke about Oliver being a wacko, but he didn't seem to want to joke. About him. Watch your friend closely, Manny. I had laughed at Oliver before, but the seriousness in Dominique's tone made me think. We talked for a little while longer until he finally went to bed. About an hour later, it was time for me to call Olly. As I clicked on the call button, the rules, which always showed up when calling a new client, popped onto my screen. Do not fall asleep. For no circumstance may you wake the sleeper. Do not touch the red emergency button unless there is an emergency. Do not fall asleep. I never really understood why sleep-watchers.net put don't fall asleep twice on that list. It seemed like it was redundant, but after reading Oliver's story, I had to admit that it gave me chills. It took a moment for our call to connect. When I finally saw Olly, I began to question everything. He appeared on the screen with his face too close to the camera. His eyes were bloodshot, and his hair was a frizzled mess that sat low on the top of his head. He looked like he hadn't showered in weeks. Olly, how you doing, man? I asked, trying to mask the concern that struck me. He didn't respond. He just kept staring into the camera. It was like he was staring into my soul. After a few tense moments, though, he finally said something. I'm going to go to sleep now. Do not wake me up. I went to respond, but before I could get a word out, Oliver had jumped into bed and turned away from the camera. In moments, he was asleep. Something wasn't right. Strings of fear began to find their way into my veins, but the more rational side of my brain, the stronger side, reminded me that Oliver was probably just playing a joke. A strange, perverse joke, but a joke nonetheless. The rest of the night went smoothly. I had my computer screen split down the middle with the camera feed from Dominique's room on one side and Olly on the other. I spent most of the night reading on my phone, happy when the clock read 7 and not a single thing had went bump in the night. For the next week, the cycle repeated. I would call Dominique an hour before he went to bed and chat with him. Then an hour after he fell asleep, I would call Oliver. The first few nights, Olly didn't say much. He would stare at me for a few minutes, mumble a few quiet, incoherent sentences, and then be out like a light for the rest of the night. By the end of the week, though, Olly seemed to be returning to his normal self. By Friday, the 5th night of me watching him, we even joked around a little before he passed out. A few nights later, I ruined everything. It was my fault. I'm the one who messed up. I'm the one who ruined the peace. It was a normal morning. a week and a half since I had first started watching Olly. I was laying in bed and staring out my window. It was around 8. Both Oliver and Dominique had already hung up, but unlike usual, I didn't feel tired. I had been sleepwatching for over half of the summer at that point. I spent every night staring at a screen. I hadn't gotten to enjoy a day outside in a very long time. I felt good. I wasn't sleepy at all. I figured I would be fine if I spent the day awake. I spent the day outside, messing around with friends who hadn't left town for college yet. I texted Olly to come join us, but I didn't get a response. I just figured he was busy. The day was good. The last good day I may ever have. That night, I called Dominique as usual and we talked a while before he fell asleep. "How are you doing, Manny?" I remember him asking me. "I'm doing good. I think Olly is finally coming back around." I remember telling him. He was quiet for a moment. I didn't realize it at the time, but fear seemed to flash across his face. "Don't take your eyes off of him, Manny," he said solemnly. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. I think that I should be getting to bed here pretty soon, though. A tired body makes for brittle bones. Good night, Manny." "Good night, Dominique." An hour later, I called Oliver. "Hey, man, how's it going?" I remember him answering the call, a smile across his face, the first I had seen from him in a long time. "I'm okay, Olly. I hung out with Michael and El Irler. You should have come with." "I wish, man. I had some work to do on my computer, though. Maybe next time." I sighed. Something was still off about Olly, but at least he seemed to be making progress. "I'm going to go to bed, Manny. Have a good night." "Sleep well, man." With that, Olly went to sleep. The next few hours passed by extremely slowly. I was looking for something interesting to do on my phone, but everything that I saw bored me. I couldn't get my mind to focus. I gave up on looking at the internet. I decided that I should clear my mind and just watch the screens for a while. Horrible idea. I didn't last 5 minutes before my day out and the sun caught up with me. I broke the rules. I fell asleep. I don't know how long I was out. It had to have been at least half an hour, but I was awoken by a loud bang. My head shot up, and it took me a minute to figure out where I was. I was still at my desk, the screen of my desktop monitor lighting up the dark room around me. Still trying to shake the grogginess of my accidental nap off, I began to look over the screens of my 2 closest friends. First, I looked into Dominique's room. I could see his large form resting in his bed. The only visible movement was his deep breathing, the breathing of an old man peacefully asleep. Next, I looked over to Olly's room. The very first thing I noticed was his bed. It was empty. The only light in Oliver's room was that of the computer screen. Shadows seemed to reek out of the corners and into the rest of the room, but even with the little light that I had, I was certain that Olly wasn't there. His blankets were thrown about and his door was standing wide open, even though he had fallen asleep with it closed. Oliver was gone, and it looked like he had left in a hurry. I started to panic. I reached for my phone, which was sitting on my desk, when, from behind me out of the darkness, I felt a hand grip my neck. The fingers were long, hard, and cold, long enough to wrap all the way around my neck. "You fell asleep." The voice was vicious, full of hate. "You broke the rules, Manuel." It took me a second, but I recognized that voice even through the bitter anger it radiated. "You broke the rules, and now you're going to have to pay." I felt the hand around my neck begin to tighten. "Olly, what the hell are you doing?" I managed to get out in a rasp whisper. The room was quiet. Oliver didn't respond, but his grip didn't loosen. As long as I had known him, he had never been so damn strong. "Olly, you don't have to do this. It was a mistake. It won't happen again. I swear." I was pleading for my life with a monster. "You're the mistake, Manuel, but don't worry, I can still use you." I felt the hand around my neck loosen. I want to say something else. I don't remember what, but before I could catch my breath, a fist as hard as steel smashed into my temple. And just like that, for the second time that night, I was asleep on the job. This time, though, I wish I had never woken up. I came to maybe an hour later with a pounding headache. Unlike the first time, though, I didn't wake up slow. I was up as fast I could be and went straight for my cell phone. I needed to call either Oliver, his parents, or the police. Somebody to help figure out what the hell was going on. I was scrolling my way through my contacts down to Oliver's parents when out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move. At first, I thought that maybe Olly was still in the room with me and every hair on my body stood on end. But as I looked up from my phone, I saw that what moved wasn't in my room. It was on my computer screen. There, on the camera feed that focused in Dominique's room, was Olly. He was standing in between me and Dominique. He was grinning, a wide grin that seemed to stretch from ear to ear. He looked tall, way taller than I ever remembered him being, and his hair hung limply at his sides. When I saw his hands, my stomach tied itself into 1,000 knots. They looked huge. His fingers grotesquely long, starch white like they had been soaked in bleach. As I looked at Oliver with horror, he continued to smile at me. "You broke the rules, Manuel. Too bad he's the one that is going to have to be punished." His voice oozed from him like a poisonous mist. "Olly, don't do this," I shouted. He smiled at me for just a moment longer before he leapt into a frenzy of action. He leaped onto Dominique's bed, his enormous white hands balled into fists. With them, he began hammering into Dominique with blow after blow. He started with his face. Blood soaked everything as it shot out of Dominique's skull and onto the white sheets he was laying on. The smacks of Oliver's punches were loud, and each one sounded like a gunshot as it connected with Dominique's face. After he pulverized Dominique's head, he continued laying his oversized fists into every part of his body. Through the camera feed, I could hear brittle bones splintering and cracking. Dominique didn't even have a chance to open his eyes before he died. I made for the emergency button, clicking on it repeatedly. Instead of connecting me to Dominique's police station, though, or even showing me his address, a pop-up appeared. It read, "This feature is restricted at the current time to user Manny_the_man. Reason: disobedience of the rules." At the bottom of the pop-up window, almost like a signature, was, "Oh, I don't know how, but I know Oliver must have found a way to disconnect the emergency button." On the screen, Oliver was still pounding his fists into Dominique's limp body. Blood was everywhere. The disgusting white hands that only an hour before had been on my neck were entirely covered in dull dark blood. Oliver was smiling that sick smile as he continued to beat Dominique into nothing. Since the emergency button didn't work, I went for the best next thing. I whipped out my phone and called the police. They answered on the first ring, and as soon as I heard the orator's voice, I blurted out everything that was happening. She asked me to slow down, but I couldn't. When she finally understood that something bad was happening to someone good, she asked me for a location of the crime. That was when I realized that I had no idea. I knew Dominique lived in a city not too far from me, but I had no idea where his apartment was or what to tell the lady. I told her the city, and I described Oliver, but as I turned back to the screen, he was gone. The only thing left behind was Dominique's demolished body. The carnage that surrounded him made my stomach drop. I threw up onto the floor of my room. Currently, it has been a day since Oliver killed Dominique. A really, really long day. The police have been at my house for hours, asking me questions, trying to figure out where Oliver may have gone or who he may be with. I told them all that I know, but the truth is that I have no idea. They found Dominique a few hours ago. No trace of Oliver, just Dominique's bloody corpse. They tried to search my computer and my phone, but so far they haven't been able to find any trace of Oliver, Dominique, or anything to do with sleep-watchers.net. It's like everything that concerned them disappeared. It's going to get dark here soon. The police have stationed a guard outside of my house, hoping to protect me, but they didn't see what I saw. Oliver isn't human anymore. He is something else. I know he is going to visit me again tonight, armed guard or not. He will find his way into my room, and he will finish what he started. I won't go down without telling my story, though. He may have deleted everything from me, shredded every piece of evidence that I have, but he can't stop me from releasing my story into the public. So here it is. Please, whoever you may be, do not join sleep-watchers.net. Do not look it up. Do not fall for the trap that Olly and I fell for. Stay as far away from this fiendish nightmare as you can. If you happen to see a boy, freakishly tall with blood-stained white hands, again, stay away. Run as fast as you can. Call the cops and pray that he didn't notice you. Listen to me. Do not put yourself into danger. As for me, I am going to go to sleep. A demon is coming for me when the sun goes down, and I would rather be murdered in my sleep than be forced to see that face or those blood-soaked hands again. Stay away. Whoever you may be, stay away.